Hi, I'm Billy Mitchell with FedScoop TV. Today I'm here with Chris LaPoint, Vice President of Product Management at SolarWinds. How you doing today, Chris?
Great. How about you?
Doing well, I'm doing well. So from your perspective, what are the immediate opportunities by leveraging IT that you think government can lower the cost?
So I think that as you think about emerging technologies, just to step back from that and sort of put it in context of sort of a more pragmatic approach, I think number one, look at your maintenance contracts and look for just wasteful spending. So, how much are you spending on your maintenance contracts? Are you actually using the software that you bought, or is it just shelfware? What is the total cost of professional services in order to get things up and running? So number two, I would look at what are the different ways that you can actually cross-train your employees so that you can take advantage of the emerging technologies. And then thirdly, I would look at just generally how you can leverage some new initiatives. So we talk about emerging technologies, things like BYOD and teleworking to reduce the cost of government.
Gotcha. So I know something you guys do well at SolarWinds is continuous monitoring. Can you tell me how that and other IT management tools are enabling the government to lower the costs or do more with less?
Sure. So continuous monitoring, the trick about continuous monitoring or other compliance initiatives and security initiatives like that is you really have to look at it from a information security being enabled by operational technology. So in a lot of cases, you can kill two birds with one stone. And I'll give you a specific example. So if you think about network configuration management, so the need to actually understand what's changed within the network when something goes down, the ability to revert back to the last known good configuration, that's just sort of network management 101. Well, that same information that you've been gathering around your environment, those network configurations, can be used for compliance purposes as well. So in that way, in leveraging an operational driver, you can solve a compliance need at the same time. And log management for troubleshooting, leveraging that for both operational purposes and then leveraging that again on the back end for compliance, I think is a way that people can leverage technology and initiatives to accomplish multiple things at the same time. And I think not only is it a reduction of cost, but I think it can help a lot of projects actually get off the ground faster because they see the operational benefits, so they're excited about solving the compliance need at the same time.
Mm-hmm. One of the big themes within federal government today is doing more with less, but there's also a side of the equation where many people are worried that doing that gives you potentially a lesser product. Do you think that's true at all? And if so, do you think there's anything in the acquisition process that kind of can prevent that?
Yeah, so I think that so what you're referring to is lowest price technically acceptable, or LPTA. So let's just talk about that for a moment. There are definitely cases where LPTA can actually create issues. If you acquire subpar software based upon cost alone and you haven't really well defined what technically acceptable is, and ends up as shelfware, that's a bad outcome. Or you end up acquiring professional services staff that is not experienced around critical projects, and you're not able to move forward because of that. So LPTA can actually be an issue if it's not thought about in the right way. And I think it comes down to defining what we mean by technically acceptable. And I'll offer just two suggestions on that point. So number one, think about the use cases, right? So when you say technically acceptable, what are the use cases behind what you're trying to accomplish, and making sure those are well defined. And I think as you focus on the use cases, what you'll find is that you don't necessarily need the be-all, end-all solution, right? That solves world hunger and the boil the ocean approach that a lot of organizations sort of find themselves in. So LPTA doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be forward-thinking, but think about the use cases, and what you'll see is that maybe you only need 20 or 30% of what the enterprise vendor might actually provide, and so maybe go look for that piece to start. The second thing I would offer is just around deployment and usability, right? Why aren't those part of your technically acceptable definition? So as you think about your IT acquisition process, think about what your timeframes are pragmatically for getting the software up and running and deployed and usable, and then what is the ongoing cost of actually maintaining and managing that?
Yeah. So last question, I'm going to ask you to take out your crystal ball and look into the future a little bit, maybe 5 or 10 years, and see what will the federal IT ecosystem look like then, and do you think it's possible that it will cost less money then to operate?
So I think that the overall cost will go down as initiatives like BYOD, teleworking, cloud, and virtualization, right? So all of the emerging technologies will be adopted by the federal government, and there's obviously a number of initiatives already going on across the agencies to take advantage of those cost savings. I think that that will be counterbalanced with additional savings around making sure that they have end-to-end visibility into what's going on with the environment. Because as you think about sort of the big picture, right, it's really about users connecting through networks to applications. Well, as it turns out, if you talk about BYOD, users are connecting to applications, but from really any type of device, from anywhere. Networks are becoming more complex as you think about virtualized networking and connecting in with physical networks and potentially connecting across the internet to SaaS-based applications. And the applications themselves are becoming more complex. So there needs to be, in the same spirit as the zealousness around trying to leverage emerging technologies to save costs, I think that there needs to be, sort of look beyond the tip of the iceberg to what monitoring and end-to-end visibility means for your environment. And so I think as we look to the future, I think that it will be, those two sort of juxtaposed, right? So emerging technologies and, the monitoring and troubleshooting technology that needs to get overlaid on top of that.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for joining us. And I'm Billy Mitchell. Thanks for watching.